we're going to move right along into geometry, and today our first lesson is going to be about lines, rays, and angles. So first, it's probably best to go over some vocabulary real fast. So some words you're going to be hearing, okay, are here on the screen. The first word is point, and a point is just an exact location in space. And so it pretty much just looks like a dot, and it'll always have a letter going with it. So we would call this point A. Next, we have a line, and a line is just a straight path of points that continues in both directions. So lines are distinguished by the arrows that they will have in both ends, and the arrows just mean that this line is continuing in both directions. And the way that we would kind of annotate this, or that you might see it appear, in questions and things like that, in kind of like an abbreviated way, is you'll see the letters of the points in order, so A, B, and then there will be a symbol of a line above them. So the line with the arrows on both sides, and then the names of the points. So this is line AB, but it can also be represented in this format. Then we also have a line segment. So this is a part of a line between two endpoints. And endpoints are exactly what they sound like. They represent the point in the line where it ends. Okay, and so line segments have points at both ends. Notice how they don't have the arrows like the line did. And again, you can, annotate these. Again, you would just write the names of the points. So we had points C and D. And then the symbol we would use here is just a line, okay? No arrows, just a line. And you don't have to include the endpoints for the line segment either. So we would call this line segment CD, and it can be written this way. And then the last piece here, I'm actually going to extend my page so I have a little bit more room. There we go. Is a ray. So we have point, let's just quickly review point, line segment, and ray. And so a ray is a part of a line that has one endpoint, but then in the other direction it continues. Okay, so it has one endpoint and one arrow. It's kind of like a combination of, a line and a line segment because it has the two different ends. So here we have point E, here we have point F, and the way that we could annotate this ray, okay, would be the names of the points, so E and F, and then the symbol above would be, it would look like a ray. It would be a line with just an arrow on one end, okay? And usually with rays, whichever end is the end point would come first, and whichever end has the arrow would come second. Usually for the other ones, the line segments and the lines, the order doesn't necessarily matter. It refers to the same thing. I usually just go from left to right. So those are the different terms and vocabulary that we'll be using for this lesson. So let's go ahead and practice a little bit, okay? So I've got, let me take that frame off of there. There we go. So I've got a figure here, okay? And you notice I've got a lot of points. I've got, some rays going, some line segments even. So let's go ahead and see if we can figure out some different pieces here. And we're going to write those names over here on this side. So the first thing that we're asked to find is a ray. So remember, a ray has an endpoint and an arrow coming out the other side. So there's a few choices here, okay? Lots of different, points with arrows. And so we just need to pick one of them and see if there's an endpoint at another end. And the thing is, the figures, shapes and figures like this, it's a combination of multiple things, multiple rays, multiple lines, and multiple line segments, and multiple points. So I'm just going to choose this right here. I'm actually going to highlight it. So this would be a ray because I have an endpoint here and I have an arrow coming out the other side. So I would say this is ray GC. Ray GC. Go ahead and pause the video and see if you can find another ray. All right, and then just before I move on, I'm gonna name one more. Let's see if I pick the one that you picked. Let's go over here. So here's my endpoint B, and it goes all the way over to point D. So this would be ray BD. All right. Now let's see if we can find a line. Now remember, a line, and I'm actually going to erase my rays. So remember, a line goes in, it has an arrow going both directions. So take a second and see, there's a couple lines here that we can choose. So I'm going to actually choose this line. Oops, I just realized that there's some points missing. See if I can fix that. Oh, I realized what I did. When I erased my rays, I accidentally erased my points. So hope I won't do that again. All right, so for lines, I'm going to actually choose this line here. See if I can keep it straight. All right, so here, if you notice, so I have my arrows at both ends. Okay, so this is a line. And you might notice, well, there's a whole lot of points along this line. When you're naming a line, you really just need to name the point at the beginning and the point at the end. If you want to, you can include the points in between, but it's not necessary. So I can just name this line AC. Okay, so this is line AC. On this figure, that's how far it extends. Name a point. Well, you've got plenty to choose from. So let's see. I'll just choose this one here. So, and you would just, you could just put a point, or you can spell out point. This would be point D. Points typically will always have capital letters. You usually won't see letter I used as a point just because sometimes it can be mistaken for a 1. And you also normally won't see O used either because, again, it could be mistaken for a 0. All right, and then last thing is see if we can find a line segment. Now, there is technically only one in this figure because remember, a line segment has 2 endpoints. So I'm going to pause the video real fast and see if you can find the one line segment. All right, so I'm not going to erase anything because I don't want it to disappear. But what I can do actually is I can change the color. So if you figured it out, this is an endpoint and this is an endpoint. Okay, so the only line segment that we have in this figure, okay, would be line segment BG. All right, BG would be a line segment. All right. So now, second half of this lesson is talking about angles. So an angle is formed by 2 rays or line segments that share an endpoint, and that shared endpoint is called the vertex. So here I have an angle. It is angle NQP. So you could annotate that as drawing an angle, and the letters NQP. You also can actually name angles just by their vertex. So if I wanted to be even more shorthand, I could just say this is angle Q, okay, because that is the vertex. So you can, and actually the order, I could even say this is angle PQ in. I could go this way. As long as the vertex is in the middle, okay, that's most important. Or if you just want to do it simple, okay, then just name the angle by the vertex itself. So we have a few choices. Now the other thing with angles, and for 4th grade, we're going to learn about 4 main types. Okay, there are acute angles, and you can remember that these are cute little angles because they're small. They measure less than 90 degrees, okay? But they are more than 0 degrees. If an angle is 0 degrees, then technically it's just a line. So these are in between 90 to 0 or 0 to 90. So they're small angles. And then we have right angles. These always will measure exactly 90 degrees, and they're always easy to identify because they'll have this tiny little square in the corner to let you know that it is a right angle. Sometimes you're not always given a protractor, which is a tool used to measure angles, and so they'll mark them for you usually on tests and things like that. Next, we have an obtuse angle. It measures more than 90 degrees, but it's less than 180. So it is, it's a larger angle. And so if you notice, this would be 90 degrees here, and it goes past that, okay? It's kind of a wide angle. The last one is a straight angle, and you're probably like, well, that looks like a line also. And yes, okay, technically it is a line. The only thing though is that, this middle point here is considered the vertex, okay? So it's an angle that measures exactly 180 degrees. And it does form a straight line, hence the word straight angle. All right, so now we're gonna go back to that figure. And if you need to, pause the video, go back to the definitions of the angles, that's fine. We're going to go back to this figure though, and we are going to now name some angles. So go ahead and pause the video and take a second and see if you can find an acute angle. All right, there's a couple of choices here. I'm actually going to go with this one. All right, so we can call this angle a few things. We could say angle, we could say ABE, angle ABE. We could even go the other way. We could say angle EBA, or we could just name it by its vertex. Okay, and the vertex or the shared, endpoint is point B. So we could just say this is angle B. It might be a little confusing though, because there's a couple of angles that have angle B. So you may want to do some of the other ones with all the letters. But this is an acute angle. It's definitely less than 90 degrees. It looks pretty small. All right, now I'm going to change my colors here. Let's do green. Now let's see if we can find an obtuse angle. Again, there are a couple choices. I'll go with this guy here. Pretty big. All right. And I'm going to say this is angle EBG. Angle EBG is an obtuse angle. Or you could say angle GBE. GBE. All right. That one's obtuse. It's definitely more than 90 degrees. It's very wide. ABD actually would also be an obtuse angle. And let's see, okay, can we find a straight angle? Do this one in purple. Straight angle. All right, if you figured it out, yeah, any of these lines here that have a point in the middle, so like this one right here, okay, that would be a straight angle. And we could call that angle FGH. Or angle HGF. And then the last one, all right, name a right angle. So you probably noticed that this time there was a square, a small square. That lets us know that this here would be, I'm going to switch this real fast, I'm running out of time. It's black. So this right here would be considered a right angle. So angle FG, other endpoint would be B. Angle FGB or angle BGF would be considered right. All right, so that's it for today. There's a few really good extra videos that I've posted if you need some extra practice. And your assignment for today is IXL lesson W4. Take care. Bye.